Well, happy Thursday, and welcome to another episode of Space Oddities. Um, we got a lot of opinions that we want to go and deep dive, delve, make very articulate arguments, or we may just throw around a lot of thoughts and accusations and rabbit holes. But either way, it should be a fun night. Thank everybody for coming out and seeing us. And how you been, Ben?
Well, I threw my back out on Saturday, so I've been sitting around the house.
Gotta love it. And I would say that's a middle-aged thing, but it's just from the first time you throw your back out. Like I did it in my 20s in the military, and it's just pretty much you get this certain feeling. Then you just gotta be like, okay, I gotta hobble everywhere, and you start walking a little upright, and you're not lifting anything up, and then the only other thing that's just as bad is like when you get that neck where you hurt your neck and you can't turn.
Oh
that
yeah.
hurt. Yeah, it takes like 2 or 3 weeks for it to heal.
It's that whole central aspect. When something goes wrong with that central aspect of your body, it's just miserable. But yeah, getting old, I guess. So other than that, been watching the news, probably spending way too much time on the news. You can't even keep up with it now.
No, I mean, dude, it's like when I watch like the mainstream news and it's not just on X, it's like after not watching, like I don't generally watch the regular news, and it's just like it doesn't matter. Yeah, I'll just whichever one, like CNN, and I'm like, oh wow, I see the twist on that. And then I'll watch the same story on Fox, and I'll watch the same story on News Nation, and then it's like, how is this the same story but a completely different narrative all the way around? And it drives me up the damn wall. That's why I stopped watching mainstream media in 2020. But so just whatever your favorite narrative is, watch that news, I guess.
Well, or try to look behind the narratives, like who is pushing a narrative, what's the why behind the narrative, rather than don't consume the product. Look at who's pushing this product, because that's what it is.
Well, what I usually do is I'll go like on a tour or one of my something that's not hooked to Google. And I'll see a byline about something that's interesting, and then I'll go look it up, and then if it's, then you can get an unbiased opinion by just kind of seeing everything that way. But it just sucks because it just takes so much longer. You can't just watch the news. I do like 1440. It's an email I get every day, and they seem to be pretty spot on. But even then, who knows? It's kind of geared more towards conservatives, but it's it just says this happened. It's kind of like how old school NPR, how their news used to be just straight. This is what's going on. They just say both sides. The Houthis said this and the Saudis said this, or they basically will go back and forth to both sides. Yeah, sorry, I had to remind them to whisper a little bit. We got a small house. Yeah, they get excited over the things that they're doing, all the kids. But so what story intrigued you the most this week? Like what actually piqued your interest?
So I wanted to be excited about the news about Rep Luna. So she kind of came out with a statement that tune in tomorrow at 3:00, like earth shattering. It's like, okay.
She was repping that thing for like a week and a half. She was like just piling it on. Oh, this is going to be monumental. It's going to affect everybody. And I'm thinking to myself, well, you're a politician, so how could that be? And I was correct. At least in my opinion. It's like it really depends on the results of this stuff. And so I figure we'll probably get another couple videos and some documents on the JFK assassination, and then we'll get like maybe 1 or 2 new UFO videos that they can't tell us where they came from, and then a dribble of this and a dribble of that, and then it'll just pit her out, and nobody will ask any more questions.
Yeah, and then there will be some contradictory news that will come out concurrently with that stuff to undermine it and to further the potential of plausible deniability and rinse and repeat. It's. I want to be hopeful because I want to be hopeful about this subject. But Gary, your perspective has proven true throughout, which is that if it's coming from the government, don't hold your breath and take it with a huge grain of salt, I guess.
Well, I mean, because no matter who's coming out and saying that, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, there's always going to be the obstacles. And of course, with every obstacle, you sit down and you say, okay, well, what do I have to do to get this done? And then it's like, all right, you have to do this, this, and this, and this. So you get that, and that done. But then in the meantime, that one that you had to do, well, you have 14 other sub things you have to do to get that, and so it turns into a big web of crap. Most of the time, it's usually classification and security level stuff. And I think that's what she was trying to push the most, is that she's going to try to work on the overclassification of things and declassify things that don't really need to be classified anymore. But, we saw how Arrow did that. And because, I mean, when they first came out, they were toting that they were going to declassify as much as possible, but in reality they basically just turned into Blue Book 2.0. So another gatekeeper. So it's just too convoluted, too much money going between hands, too many people's careers. I mean, look, most politicians get into office and immediately start fundraising for their next election.
They have to, with how our system is.
Yeah. So I mean, when's she gonna have time?
Yeah, well, she's been involved in this. A few of the other Congress people have been pretty consistent in pushing, which actually brings up something else, that we had that recent congressional hearing that was chaired by Representative Nancy Mace, and that was the one where the Immaculate Constellation paper came out. And that one, which was attributed to Michael Schellenberger. And now Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp, or I think it was mostly coming from Jeremy, saying that there's some untoward situations going on around that hearing, where he had brought the memo, he had presented the memo, submitted the memo previously, but then they brought in Schellenberger to officially be the reporter who brought in the memo, and Corbell tried to correct the record. Schellenberger didn't. Nancy Mace didn't. So now Nancy Mace, who we had thought was a champion of disclosure, or has seemingly been a champion of disclosure, now Jeremy Corbell is calling her a liar. Which, I mean, I think
believe that's calling the kettle black.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he is the pot, and I don't really, there's so much bullshit that comes out of his mouth that it's hard for me to really believe half of it. And then when it does come out, because I mean, they do get some stuff every once in a while. They do get early videos and stuff like that, but I always worry about where those videos are coming from. Did some junior guy hand him this video thinking he was going to be famous, and next thing you know, the kid's in Leavenworth. And also, before I forget, everybody that's watching, looks like we got about 19 people watching at the moment on various things. Looks like mostly on X, but make sure you get into the comments. Even on X, you can comment and ask questions. So, get in there. And I believe that we do see stuff on X too. So let me see. Let's test this. Test. Oh, I suppose I should spell it right. I had my fingers in the wrong spot.
Yeah, we get it.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So we can see, you know, X, and we can see the YouTube. I don't believe we can see Facebook. So if you do post a question on Facebook, I'll try to answer them after the show. So yeah, we're by far mostly on X. But either way, thank you guys for joining us, and hopefully we'll entertain you for an hour, if anything else. So Rep Luna, I'll pray for her. I hope that she can get something done, but I will reserve everything until the day that we see results, and that goes for anything government, as far as I'm concerned.
now, if we handed the problem off to Doge,
well, they're good at cutting costs, so
yeah, and ferreting through bureaucracies, which is the tape that is binding up people even with good intentions, like you said.
Yeah, but they're not geared towards something like that. They're geared towards going through financials, you know. So yeah, I'm not really gonna worry about that. Let them do that. Let them deal with the overspending and all the corruption going on in the $20,000 hammers.
Well, even worse than $20,000 hammers and $100,000 toilet seats are the fact that we've been literally financing our enemies and forces that are antithetical to our way of life and the values of the United States and the West in general. Like today, I saw that they traced $3 million USA dollars to a rapper in Gaza who is making anti-Semitic, anti-Israel rap videos. Like, you know, if you just give me $100,000, I will learn how to rap, and I will make raps about being patriotic and being a good person. You know, I'll do that.
Well, I'll be dead honest with you. They'll probably give you about $10 not to.
Well, sure, there you go. But like, why would who thought it was a good idea? I can understand statecraft.
Well, I mean, we've been run by a very liberal entity for the last, you know, we've only had a conservative president for 4 years in the last 18. So we've had a very liberal government for quite a long time. So,
but
they tend to,
liberal,
you know, well, that's just it. You know, they got, you know, I was reading some of the Doge reports where, you know, they're putting in some of these things where they weren't even putting in descriptions of what the hell the money was for. You know, so some cat thinks they're getting away with something. They're like, oh, okay, well, you know, we'll give this guy some money to finance him to, you know, because, you know, I don't like Jews, so I'm in this position of power, so I'm gonna, you know, hand this guy some cash, and I don't even have to tell him why, because this will go through anyways. How does a check go through our federal government with no indication of what the money is being used for at all? Just a blank spot where the use, or if there is anything in there for, like, let's say for promotional purposes or something stupid like that, it should be, you know, pretty in detail for giving a good chunk of money to anybody. You know, I don't care whether it's $1,000 or $100,000. There should be a very detailed, you know, chain of custody for every cent that we send abroad and domestic. Because when it comes down to it, I mean, you know, we're all on the hook for all that money.
Well, and that's the hardest thing, like, for me to take, and this has been very upsetting. My money has been going to fund my enemies who are killing us. Like, I don't like that. Yep. I don't think anyone would like that.
Well, it's gotten to the point now where, you know, it's like, how does a minority of our population turn into a majority and changing the way that we are supposed to live? You know, it's like, it's, you know, where I live, nothing's really changed other than us just biting our tongues, you know, and the whole ideology that's been behind everything that's been going on lately. It's just like, no, smaller federal government, go live your life, whatever you want to do, as long as it doesn't infringe on anybody else, hurt children, or influence any child other than your own, then I'm okay with you. Just go live your life. I don't care what you do. Go. I would rather you be a saved Christian, everybody. But if you're not going to be,
you'll do a podcast with them.
Yeah, don't try to influence my kid. Don't do, don't drag people into my kids' classrooms. That stuff never should be in classrooms. They shouldn't even know what that word is. As far as and that's just, keep your sexuality to yourself. It's private. I don't walk around talking about my sexuality. I don't talk about what I'm doing or how I do it or anything like that. Why should they? But anyways, I'm going to get off that soapbox. Before I upset too many people.
I agree with you on some of those subjects. Some of them, with influencing children, is kind of something where it's really hard to quantify, and because we send our kids to school, so they're going to be influenced. But I fully agree that
there should be no talk of sexual preference. There should be no talk of their sexual preference or the child's sexual preferences, because children generally don't have one.
No, generally no.
Until they hit middle school and up, there's no way in heck a kid knows what the hell their sexuality is. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, I knew I was straight from third grade on, because I had a crush on a girl. But I was also an early mature.
It doesn't matter whether you are or not. It just shouldn't be in school.
Well, sure.
That's why they have support groups. I mean, look, I'm a military vet with PTSD. Should everybody have to deal with that? No. I have support groups. I have people I talk to. I have family. I have friends. I keep it, I openly talk about it on a forum like this, which is adult only. But I'm not going to go into my daughter's first grade class and explain to them how they all need to be sensitive to my PTSD. No. I have to change for them. So I mean, I know that's a little bit different situation, but it's along the same lines. It's like, it's not their problem. It's my problem.
Well, that's a good point, because what I think we've tried to do collectively is make every problem that exists, make it a collective problem. And in some cases, it just really shouldn't be. I think every person needs to be treated with dignity and respect, and should be and should be safe, and shouldn't be persecuted for who they are.
There should never be a child that feels unsafe in this world, and unfortunately, that's just not a reality. And that hurts my heart every time I think about it.
Yeah. Well, and to that very point, right now, a lot of people are feeling unsafe for no good reason other than the media, I think, sees that its power is in jeopardy. And
that shit needs to stop too. The making everybody fear walking outside. Making everybody fear each other. I tell you what, you see me in the street and you need help, you're in danger, you come directly to me and you talk to me, and I'm probably going to help you. I mean, if you come to me and you're begging for money, probably a different story. But if you're if you're seriously in trouble, you're somebody's after you, you just got the crap kicked out of you, there's 5 guys looking to put you in the ground, come run over. I'm going to help you. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your status is. You deserve to be safe, So now, for you not feeling safe because somebody misgenders you or says the wrong pronoun, that's your problem. That's not
exactly
ours.
Yeah, that's it. And that's it about, is there a real risk to your safety? Like, I can understand people are scared. People who are in minority communities of like sexual orientation, gender, all those subjects, they're concerned with what the media has been repeating, and legitimately with some of the policies are potentially concerning to those people. And I don't want anyone to feel unsafe, but I also don't think that every single person should have to embrace everyone else's personal choices.
Yeah, I'm not going to go out of my way to hurt your feelings, but
yeah,
I'm not.
but have a thick skin.
I don't have to participate either.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, we got way off topic. So Luna wants to declassify a bunch of UFO stuff. I really hope she does. What else is in the news? Let's get off of that, because honestly, I see that as a dead end until it actually produces some type of results.
So, supposedly there's going to be hearings, or her task force is going to have hearings in March. So we'll talk about it after it happens, and nothing.
So a bunch of politicians are going to get together and talk more about not doing anything. Roger that.
Mm-hmm. All right. Probably.
And then they have closed door sessions where everything will be classified, and then we still won't hear anything. That's my take. Mm-hmm. I am happy that there's people like Lou, Chris Mellon, all these people that are pushing the government to disclose whatever they can get them to disclose. But, it's like, I see that's uphill battle that these guys are fighting, and and then I'm making note of the people that Lou is saying, oh, look, I'm glad that this person got nominated and ratified into office, because that sounds like somebody that's going to be pro, UAP disclosure. So, he seemed to have been saying that a lot lately. So Lou's been very active on X lately. Have you seen any of his posts?
I don't know if I've seen his posts, but I saw him recently. I forget who he was talking to. It was interesting though, because I noted he actually came out and positively for Trump, which previously he had not.
No, he stayed pretty neutral. He didn't really talk pro or against him.
Nope.
I think he sees it as an opportunity.
Possibly, yeah. He was on. Trump, or is it Eric or Don Jr.? One of them has a podcast, and I only watched one of those because Lou specifically was on it. So Lou was speaking about how he's hopeful about Trump wanting to declassify. I think it is Don Jr. who has this podcast, but how he said Don Jr. is also very interested in disclosure. So I mean, the proof is in the action. And so far, Trump has not said what he would do, which was he would tell us about the drones on day one. And even Ross Coulthart this week called out Trump and said that if Trump is not honest about the UFO or UAP issue, then he's kind of tying his entire administration up around that one issue, that if he can't be trusted on that subject, he's not going to be trusted on anything. So I think I'm a little more pragmatic, see a little more nuance there. So I don't think Trump is being honest with us when he says about the drones were authorized by the FAA, because the FAA had said, we don't know what it is. So again, that whole drone thing,
who told him? It's like, everything I was hearing from people, and you know how that is, just people I have phone numbers to, that if I talked about, or if I called them all the time, I wouldn't have their phone numbers. But these people, the basically through that whole rumor mill was that most of these large UAPs were literally government aircrafts being flown by subcontractors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so again, some nuance on that. I'm not gonna endorse or condemn Trump on the UAP subject until we get more or we get nothing.
I think we got a better chance with him than most. at least for
Yep.
a UAP disclosure, because I don't think he gives a rat's ass whether it's disclosed or not, which is actually a pro for us, because he's just, yeah, sure, do it, yeah, get it done. That's the kind of attitude that guy has. So I don't think he has much thought past that. But then, and for all those out there that are my liberal friends and family that know my standing is just understand that I'm neither for or against Trump. I'm just for getting shit straight, getting things under control, getting things back to common sense, and that's it. It could have been anybody, as long as they were doing a clean administration and making the government smaller, and then I'm happy.
Yeah, and on those, it seems that he is delivering. I come from a much more liberal background. I voted for both Republican and Democratic presidents. I voted against Trump the first time. The second time, I'll admit that I did support him this time, and I'll actually say proudly that I supported him this time, because the alternative was not good. And what he's done so far, I'm pretty happy with.
I just voted for the one person that could say one sentence that actually made sense.
Yes,
that's who I voted for.
Yes, that was
the one that didn't have Alzheimer's and actually knew something about politics.
Yeah. I mean, once I got over the media, the echo chamber, I guess I had been in, even though I never watched TV. I don't have TV.
But you make your own echo chambers. I actually just recently on my X I had a whole, dude, I had a ton of people blocked. Just shit tons of people blocked. And I was just like, realized my feed is just an echo chamber of what I believe and think. And it's like, you don't grow from that. You don't get any type of real mental growth or understanding both sides from doing it that way. So I unblocked everybody, even if I don't like you. So it just it doesn't mean I won't reblock somebody if they prove to be not needing to be in my feed. But I did unblock everybody on my X.
Yeah, and that it's critical, but it's also critical to have nuanced voices, not just contrasting voices, because that's also how narratives have been controlled. Like, we're now seeing with the USAID revelations from Doge that they were financing all sorts of different news outlets. So like the BBC, British Broadcasting Corporation, Reuters, MSNBC, all sorts of Politico, all sorts of different news outlets were receiving our tax money. And then when pressed, the media or the more liberal media responded that, well, a free press is a necessity in a democracy, which 100% agreed. But the second you take government money, you're no longer free and fair press. You're now a purchase.
Oh, that was crazy, seeing all of the media outlets that were just receiving millions of dollars, and it's like, I knew that some media outlets received some money during like the pandemic so that they didn't close down, which I can kind of understand that. The pandemic was horrible. They shut everything down. I personally believe unnecessarily shut the United States down. I know personally business owners that literally went completely under, and
yeah, there were a lot of things that we could have done during COVID much better, and we hadn't dealt with a pandemic in a long time. But what got me the worst in the COVID times was seeing people who were outdoors being harassed by police and things like that, which is just absurd, when the best thing you can do if in a pandemic situation is be outdoors and like out in nature. It was absurd.
Yeah,
absurd.
Yeah. I could understand. Yeah, and then but yet the protests were okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Protests are just fine when you've got that, hundreds or thousands of people
100 people
elbow to
shoulder to
elbow.
shoulder. Yeah.
Yeah. No, the hypocrisy from government, and I'm not going to say from left or from right. The
No,
hypocrisy
from
from
both sides. I mean, everybody
is
was on board.
it's obscene. And hopefully that's like, I'm not super conservative. I'm not super liberal. I think I'm pretty moderate, a rationalist. But now that I'm happy, I'm very happy to see that things are being brought to
Somehow we
light.
went back down the political rabbit hole, man.
Sorry.
we can't get away from it. We can't get away from it. Sorry, But all right. So well, Chris Bledsoe just went on a podcast, and this was pretty amazing. Now I've got probably a different opinion than most people have. As a saved Christian, I'm a brother in Christ with Chris, and I consider myself a friend of Chris's. We've never been able to, we're not going down fishing together. We're not buddies. I ain't going to his house. He ain't coming over to the house cooking. He doesn't come to my kids' birthday parties or anything like that. But I respect him and I consider him, a brother in Christ. And as far as I'm concerned, a friend. And man, he made some, he has to admit it to himself. There's some wild claims and some hard pills to swallow. But luckily, I'm saved, so I don't really. It doesn't matter for me. But he is a very genuine person. And it's like all of these alphabet agencies, NASA, they literally are knocking this guy's door down left and right all the time. And I mean, there has to be something to it, at least because when I first heard the story, before I knew anything about him, his son, and it's kind of like, sounds like another kind of whacked out story. And then I started digging deeper, finding out, who was involved. Colonel Alexander, he's a friend of mine also, and he vehemently vouches for him. I mean, says he's the real deal.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I consider that a pretty high tout, and at least in my opinion, because that guy's been involved with just about so many black projects, it's ridiculous. So it's hard for I can't dismiss it.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say I'm going to take those words to heart.
So for anyone who hasn't seen that, you're talking about the Sean Ryan podcast.
Yes.
With
Sorry.
Chris.
I suppose context would probably help out here. I'll let you deal with the context then.
Well, I mean, I think if you want did you want to go into some of the things that he said specifically? Because I mean, he made
he did a kind of an overview of his book. His book is a basic history about what he's been through, his life, before and after his UFO sighting, what he's had to go through, being ostracized by his own church and even his own people thinking he's literally crazy and that his medication's causing him to hallucinate. And when it comes down to it, yeah, you can point out that maybe something is the ISS that he sees. We all get it wrong, but when you see so many things on such a regular basis, you don't even care if it is. Oh, look, there's another one. There's another one. Oh, but it just happens so often to this guy. And I mean, if you take 3 seconds to get to know the guy, talk to him, he's very personable. Send him a message. If you get to a certain personal level with him, he doesn't have a problem inviting people out, going out with people, and just basically proving the things that he says. So he's one of the few people that I know will, like, if you have a major problem with him, you come out swinging like this guy's full of crap, he's full of it. It'll get to a certain point where people are like, all right, come on down to the house, or come on down to this place. I'll prove it. So he will do everything in his best, in his power to prove. But in also in the same respect, he doesn't care whether you believe him or not. He's doing his thing, and that's it. He doesn't care whether you believe him or not. And it's just like when I tell the story about the Nimitz encounter, it ain't nothing crazy. I didn't see any, there was no spiritual aspect of my encounter, but I'm going to tell you it's straight, and I'm not going to care whether you believe me, because for me, it's just the truth. So I can understand where he's coming from when he's just tells you it based off of what he sees, and that's his truth. That's the perspective of a person that went through an event, and that's all events. So I'm going to take his words with a little bit more of a, I'm going to heed the warning. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, and if anyone, he posts videos, and a lot of them, they're not groundbreaking. In most of them show a light in the sky.
Some of them look like lens flare. Some of them do just look like a ball of light in the sky, and some of them look pretty interesting. And I think seeing the stuff in person would probably be much better of a situation.
Yeah,
if you're seeing that same thing, but without a camera, it's much easier to say yes. So,
yeah.
So I have to say that I'm pro Bledsoe.
Yeah. And the videos, I wasn't going to denigrate those. I was going to say that while they're not earth shattering and you see a structured craft and beings or something like that, they are hard to explain. He does a good job of getting like trees and stuff in the foreground. So what looks like, I'll see something, I'll be like, yeah, that's an out of focus star. And some of his videos, I'm like, oh, look, it's an out of focus star. And then it moves behind a tree, and the tree is in focus. And it's like, okay, no, it's already, that tree is probably at infinite focus. If that was a point source that was just out of focus, the tree would be out of focus as well. So
yeah,
they're not the most exciting videos, but they're.
But then again, they're not professional cameramen either, So I mean, they're doing the best of their abilities, and they're, I'm sure that they're learning a thing or two here and there and getting some pointers from people, because there's so many people interested in the story. I think a couple of years ago, somebody sent them a Psionics camera to film with, and that's a nice little toy. I wish somebody would send me one of those. I'd be filming the damn sky every night.
So now, regarding Chris's most dramatic statement during his podcast, did you want to talk about that? I mean, that's coming from your religion.
You might as well. You might as well. He truly believes that not this April, but next April, that there's going to be some type of either a revelation or even possibly the return of Christ, and that's a big statement, and a very small time frame, and if he's wrong, do I think that he's just a complete fraud? No. The one thing about, whenever you see prophecy, especially in books or, the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, this prophecy is being written by somebody and purposefully within a certain way, so that it can be understood by people that understand prophecy, not necessarily the layman. I could prophesize that, Ben tomorrow will have a great enlightenment, and he will, see, I could just say he has a great enlightenment, and then, sure enough, a helicopter happens to hit him with a spotlight tomorrow night. But you thought he was going to have some type of mental enlightenment, no, he just
illumination.
His whole life, and Yeah, he was illuminated and enlightened that way instead of, enlightened through mental capacity. So
Mhm,
that's the thing with prophecy. He could be told exactly specifics,
mhm,
and I got a feeling like, it's like I don't tell too many people, why I believe in Christ, and one of the reasons I believe in Christ is I was in a very dire situation where I was on death's door, and um, Christ came to me and walked with me. And as we walked, whether it was, you know, me being delirious, unconscious, or whatever, but it was real enough for me to believe that it was Christ saving me. And the conversation wasn't a conversation like we're having now. It was understanding. Like if I could,
telepathic.
if like, so yeah, so if I could take everything I'm thinking in my perspective and immediately just transpose it to your mental state. So you can just take a peek through my eyes and just instantly understand where I'm coming from. Like the point of view gun from uh, Hitchhiker's Guide for the Galaxy.
Mhm.
It's like you shoot at it and then you immediately understand. Now
Yeah.
it's more of being able to take a picture and an idea and pushing them together and just having an understanding. And it's just that understanding is so much more in depth and nuanced that you'll be picking through it for the rest of your life. And so if he did, whatever happened to him, whatever information that he's been given, you know, I'm not going to hold it against him if Christ doesn't come in 2026. But I wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't some other situation that happens in Easter of 2026 that changes the world.
So just quickly, I'll give a little background for anyone who doesn't have any of the details there. So his statement was that I don't recall exactly how he got to it, but that when the king star Regulus is between the paws of the Sphinx, that humanity would know something new. So and he didn't know that it was he just knew that when the something red, the Red King or something is in between the paws of the Sphinx,
Well,
and he
that's
asks,
there's a prophecy about the Sphinx that there's some type of red gem or red
Mhm.
jewel, between it, and then we'll be enlightened as a species. And
Yeah.
he foresaw that was actually Regulus on the horizon,
Mhm.
and having it look red from the viewpoint of being between the paws of the Sphinx. Apparently, some type of scientist that he knows was able to figure out that situation would happen on Easter of 2026.
Mhm.
So that's
Yeah.
that's the where he's at. It's not an actual jewel; it's the star Regulus.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. It's a great story. I think it's interesting. Chris was a Christian before, so he's looking at this, of course, through a
Through
Christian
Christian
framework.
lens.
And interestingly enough, though, Easter was Passover for Jews. So like I think the Last Supper, the supposedly right before Jesus was betrayed, that was a Passover Seder, or it was either the Passover Seder or it was the Shabbat before Passover. So it's if you're looking at it from a Christian standpoint, Easter is going to have the significance of Easter. Before Christianity, Jews, that time period would be representative of Passover, which is the Exodus from Egypt, which you can
Well,
look
wasn't the
at
Last
that in.
Supper the Passover celebration?
Yeah, I'm just not sure if it's the actual Passover celebration or if it was the Shabbat dinner, Sabbath dinner before the Passover.
Okay,
It
because I know.
depends
I
on.
mean, you got to remember, Jesus was Jewish, so I mean, he's going to be celebrating Jewish holidays also.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, so that was the famous picture. I think it's Michelangelo, the Last Supper, the famous painting that shows Jesus and his disciples. That's a Seder dinner. So I mean, they were all Jews. They were Jesus. You know, if he's as a historical figure, was born a Jew, died a Jew. You know, he was started.
No, he had.
Well, I don't know if he even started it, but he birthed the new religion.
No, yeah.
But he was
He told us the word of
raging.
God.
Yeah, he was raging
And
against what he saw as corruption amongst the priestly class, corruption in the temple, raging against corruption with the Romans. So there's it, but it's interesting that timing, depending on what culture you come from, it could have different significance, or you could attribute it a certain significance. So I mean, I'm with you in terms of I think Chris Bledsoe is a very genuine person. When I listen to him speak and I see him speak, I get a very genuine soul. You know, hearing his stories, his book is phenomenal. And this long interview with on the podcast is excellent, but just he's had such a difficult life, and just incredible tragedy. He's lived through incredible tragedy with losing his first wife, and just that story. Like, I can't listen to that story without tearing up.
no, I know, dude. I couldn't even imagine.
Unreal.
I mean, it's like that's something that unless it happens to you, it's just like when people, you know, with no kids try to tell you about your kids. You know, it's just like you unless it happens to you, you got nothing you can talk about with it. All you could do is have sympathy, and couldn't even imagine it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like, I'm not a Christian, I'm a Jew, but I have a lot of trust in Chris speaking honestly, and the things that have occurred around him, very, very like well documented. Literally a tree burning from the inside out after 3 days of rain, and like just on his property.
That stuff's crazy. Some of the stuff that's happened is just, and I say crazy not as in I don't believe it. I'm just saying it's like it's miraculous, you know, the things that have happened, you know, and it just, you know, even if 1/10 of the story was 100% true, and I'm not saying it's not all true. I'm just saying if only 1/10, it would be amazing.
Yeah. It's so he obviously, I mean, he's recognized from every branch of government, and he speaks highly of a lot of those government branches, and some of the things he seemingly prevented the assassination of the last pope, which is, you know, that's pretty awesome.
Unfortunate. I mean,
well, I mean,
I'm not on board with the Pope. I believe in the papacy as about as much as I believe in our government. You know, it's the Catholic Church as a whole, like as is the organization of, like, not Catholics themselves, the Catholic organization of the church. I got nothing. I have zero use for them. They're the most useless entity I've ever encountered, and I think that they've stopped following the path of Christ in the Dark Ages.
I just want to get into their archives, the Vatican archives.
Oh yeah, I would love them. I mean, talk to Diana. She got in. Diana Pasolka. Yeah, yep. I mean, she's been in the archives. I don't know how deep into the archives, but I mean, it's there's areas I'm sure that even she's not access to. But yeah, it would be truly. But then again, if you got in there, you know, the oldest scrolls are the ones you're after, and good luck figuring out which ones you want to read. And of course, it'll all be in either Aramaic, Hebrew, which you might be able to read the Hebrew ones. I don't know if you finished Hebrew school or not.
I can read it. I can't understand too much.
All right. So, or, you know, Aramaic, Greek, Hebrew, you know, all of the, you know, old languages that, you know, only scholars basically can read and write in at this point. They're all dead languages for the most part. It's and plus Plus, I honestly believe unless you can read it in the original uh, language that it was written and have a mind frame from that era, you're not going to truly understand what you're reading.
Oh, at least definitely true with Hebrew. So Hebrew is written without vowels. So now we have vowels, but I think vowels are really on the vowel markings are maybe 1,000 or 2,000 years old. But so all like the Torah has no vowels. So you can read a word it could be you could have the same different words written with the same letters, and depending on how you pronounce it, which would be the vowels, completely different meanings. So
Or
there's a whole,
context and where it's placed within a sentence structure too
of
will
course,
change the
yeah,
name of So
yeah, yeah.
Japanese is a lot like that because we got hiragana, katakana, and kanji. So you've got three different sets of letters, and they use kanji is what most people are familiar with. Just the inflection on the same word can mean completely different things.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe if the UAP have been here for since the beginning of time, maybe they have videos. Maybe we'll finally
Oh, I
actually get the
know.
real
I would love to see an
pronunciation.
old archive of it's like I wonder if they say that it's an old civilization that was on the planet, and this is all AI driven technology that are all doing odd jobs on the planet, and we just happen to keep we got our hands on it, and they were able to like look at all the old archives through it, or like it's all connected like in a neural net or something, and it's like at the archives because it's been doing the same thing of recording what's going on the earth since like the beginning of man. And all of a sudden we start seeing actual history in the archives of these drones. That would blow people's minds. I think
Mm.
that would cause the worst. I think a lot of bad things would happen if those surface. You'd have 50% of people say it's not real. 50% of people say that they're absolutely real, and then nobody's going to give a shit.
Yeah,
I
I'd
mean, look
love
at
to
what's
see
going on now. The government's
living history.
literally said, yes, there's UAPs. They're for real. And yet, still, people are just like, oh, okay.
Yep. Yep.
Is it on Netflix where it says, Don't Look Up? Or what's that movie?
Yeah, Don't Look Up. I
Yeah,
think it was on
that
Netflix.
that perfectly shows the
Yeah.
problem right
Hmm.
there.
Hmm.
That movie is the literal synopsis of what happened right before the documentary Idiocracy.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe we might have changed the timeline away from the idiocracy path. I'm hopeful.
Ah,
If I'm hopeful. Don't
who
take away my
knows?
hope, Barry.
There's idiots on both sides, so we'll
Oh,
see.
no, I know, but right now, so I watched Mike Benz he analyzes our intelligence apparatus, and he's on X. He goes into like hours and hours of depth on some of the real dastardly stuff and just the statecraft that has been perpetuated through our intelligence apparatus. And he went on Joe Rogan. So Joe Rogan has a big audience. So people are now, at least I think they're getting to see how little they actually know. And maybe people will understand that the talking points, the polar opposites, that you're supposed to be on one side or the other, and then yell at the other
Yeah,
side.
those
That's
things aren't
bullshit.
real. It's all
No,
real,
that's
not real.
it's literal. It's just fabricated distractions and misdirection. Um, so I don't think anyone, like, no matter what your views are, whether you support something, like some of the USAID money, maybe it was going for a good thing, but I don't want to pay for it. And I
No,
think a
that's the
lot
other
of
thing
people
is
can agree with that.
it's when I see somebody get on and say, well, them taking this money prevents us from doing this good work, and then this good work is, I don't know, feeding hungry children in Africa. Great cause. We've literally got thousands of churches doing the same thing. We literally have private organizations doing the same thing. we've got billions of dollars in private assets doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we have to do it as a government?
Exactly. Yeah. And they even messed that up because a lot of the money was going to like Lutheran services and Catholic charities as a backdoor to fund the illegal immigration. So I fully support it. Like, give charity to whatever cause you want, and those good charities. That's the way to fund these initiatives.
Yeah, make sure you really research the charities you give money to, though, because
Yeah.
you got to see where the money's going to. You got to see, like, especially when you're doing it for humanitarian aid. If you give like you say you give UAPX money, you know where it's going. It's going to research UAPs. It may be $400 to make sure the website's still running, or it could go to equipment. And only donate to places that will literally use your money for the things that you ask them for. Because most of the time, like, say you give $10 to XYZ that gives food to Africa. Well, that $10, only about 50 cents is going to actually end up in Africa, because of processing fees, administration fees, people that have to be paid, everything like that. And of course, the overinflated cost of everything, because they think they could get away with it because it's a charity, or it's the federal government. It's like, I'm about done with all that. So really, really investigate the charities that you give your money to.
Yeah, and especially make sure that it's charities that are not perpetuating a problem rather than solving it. Like,
exactly.
Look at the California homeless problem. That is a problem. It's $1 billion problem, and as long as it remains $1 billion problem, it's going to remain a problem. You have people who benefit from solving or managing a problem. There's no incentive to actually do away with that problem.
Plus, you want to fix homeless. You want to fix food issues. In a third world country, teach them permaculture. Teach them teach them how to do permanent infrastructure that not only is self-sustaining but will multiply and get ever growing bigger and bigger and bigger, and be able to feed more and more people. So there's real solutions to these problems in the world, but hardly anybody wants to do them because they're hard work.
Yeah, and it's easy to cut a check and say, "Oh, my job is done here."
Yeah, I'm a good person. I gave $100 last year. I can go back to sitting on my podcast bitching about all the problems in the world. But either way, it looks like we're coming down to the last couple of minutes. If you guys got any last minute questions you want to get in, or comments, tell me I'm an a-hole, whatever. That it all works. Share with us. You make sure you get involved. I want to see people talking and asking questions. And you got to have some type of opinion about things. Don't get scared. I'm not going to bite. Ben might, but I'm not going to bite. I'm too laid back for that. Yeah. He gets a little wound up though.
Yes, but disagreement is good, and also, so Jewish and Argentinian, so I've got Latin and Jewish, so we're very animated, passionate people. So it's it might get a little loud, but it's not.
Hey, calm down there, Pepe.
Sorry. Yeah. So, por Dios. But we disagree. Like, push back on us. Like, that's how you learn, is not by regurgitating and just adopting. It's and I mean, that's how I learn. I need people like Gary and I come from very different backgrounds, different religion, different perspective, different culture, lots of different politics, now some similar politics, but he
everything is common sense. We seem to see eye to eye on, but someday I'll teach him about Christ and why he should be saved. It's coming.
So April 26th, or wait, when's Easter?
It's 2026 Easter.
Yeah. Yeah. So
But hey,
yes,
you know what? If it happens, I'm fine. I'm like I said, I'm saved. Hopefully when you're judged, you have done more good than bad. Our Jewish brothers are the chosen, so they will be, but you will be weighed. And
well, so that the chosen, that's something that's dangerous and difficult. It's not we're not chosen like the chosen people, chosen to be the best or above. No,
no,
like we were chosen to carry the Torah through history, and Torah means knowledge, wisdom, and
hopefully all you Christians out there understand that that's the Old Testament for the most part.
the old, yes, the 5 books of Moses. It's so it was chosen to be prosecuted, hated, kicked out of every country, like to be afflicted. Like
Well, the
that's
end times will
literally, I
come
am
when literally
chosen.
everybody's kicking Israel in the teeth.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what in the Torah that it said. It's like I've chosen you for affliction, basically. So it's not like don't look at Jews like as like a superiority complex or as anything like that. We think we're better than anyone. Like no, 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 no. Like we just have to serve everyone. Like we have to help heal the world, and that's what we're here for. It's not like it's nothing that please don't kill us.
Well, don't worry, my friend. I got your
Yeah.
back.
Yep. Thank you.
You know where I live. Just come in. I got a very safe place for you.
Yeah, all the way down south in Florida. So, but I can make it in just one stop in the plane.
Now, if somebody tries to get in here, if the alligator doesn't get him, my gun will. You're good.
Yeah.
So, but it's always a pleasure, Ben. Thank you for joining me tonight on our podcast. It's always refreshing to hear your side of things. And thank you all for joining us. And God bless everybody. And I hope everybody's weekend is wonderful. We will see you next week with another episode. But that's been all for Space Oddities this week. You got anything else you want to say, Ben?
No. Good night, Gary. And thank you, everyone. And we'll see you soon.
All right. Good night, everybody.